And we're back here on Tech Pulse. And we're talking about Apple changing manufacturers because, well, not manufacturers, but they're changing chip manufacturers. And I think this is something that would interest Devin because we've talked about this for a while now. And, you know, this is something that, you know, I mean, interestingly enough, I didn't really know. So, I mean, Devin, I'll give you one guess. Apple is changing their chip manufacturers. And this because, you know, we've been talking about a certain topic for a while now. And so when I read this, I'm sure a lot of people in the tech community knew it, but this isn't something that I was really aware of until I read this story. Now, I give you one guess as to who Apple's chip manufacturer is. Who do you think Apple's chip manufacturer, the chip that's in their iPhone, their iPad, everything that is their chip is in it? Just one guess real quick. You know, I mean, we'll open it up to the studio panel. You know, we have a number of new guys here in the tech room. You know, my nephew is here working the boards. So we're going to ask them, you know, who do you think is Google's chip manufacturer? Xavier, what do you think? Who do you think Google's chip manufacturer is? Just name somebody.
Microsoft.
Nope, it's not Microsoft. Jaden, what do you think? We have silence in the studio for the first time. Give me a company. Who do you think Apple's chip manufacturer is? Anybody jumps to mind?
I can't think of the name. Who makes all the chips?
Who, you mean like AMD and all that type of stuff? No. And I'll tell you, Apple is dependent on Samsung. So
Stop the show. Stop the show. No. No, kidding me.
Apple is dependent on Samsung for all of their chips.
The ones that sued them.
The ones that are suing.
Yeah.
No, Apple is suing Samsung for patent infringement, yes.
No, the ones that were sued by
Apple are their chip makers. Apple is writing a check to them.
Stop the show. This is over. I'm a Samsung fan.
And you just got
Apple.
You just got the Samsung Galaxy S. So that's crazy, right? Apple is dependent on Samsung, and I mean, I never knew that. I didn't know that Samsung makes, and every chip in every Apple device, whether it's iPad, iPhone, iPod, Samsung's chips are in there. Now, why would Apple be relying on Samsung all these years? Well, Samsung makes a unique brand of silicone that Apple can't duplicate, and so therefore they're dependent on Samsung to use their chips in all of their products, and so it left Apple with little choice. So although it'll be big for Apple if they can switch, because the reports are that and we know that their relationship has been strained because of the lawsuits and so forth, but it makes sense now. It makes sense why Apple is trying to get out from under Samsung now, and it makes sense why all of this bad blood has been going on. According to the Wall Street Journal, Apple will not be paying one of its biggest competitors. I mean, Apple is competing with Samsung. You see, because before Samsung was nobody. Samsung wasn't a main threat to Apple, but ever since the Galaxy S3 and now the Galaxy S4 is outselling iPhone easily. You see? And now Android, matter of fact, Samsung has 29% of the market share. Just Samsung. That's not Android. Samsung has 29% of the Android market share and of the mobile phone market share as it is. Apple iPhone only has 20. So Apple is saying, wait a minute now, we're buying chips from you, and you're better than us. It's kind of like I remember I was in school, and obviously I'm not condoning this type of behavior. But when I was in school back in high school, and you know, so my nephews know that we're not condoning this. But I was taking an exam, right? And I didn't know the answer to one of the questions. So the guy that was sitting next to me was a friend of mine, and I said, yo man, what's the answer to number 8? And he gave me the answer, and the answer was right. And guess what happened? At the end, I ended up getting like a 90-something on the test. He got like a 80 or 70. He was like, you cheated off me and got a higher score than me? Nah, that ain't happening.
That wasn't the only
That wasn't the only question.
component.
Right. But it's just the point that
Yeah.
if, I got an answer from him and ended up scoring better, he's like, nah, this can't fly. So I'm saying, imagine Apple now. Their biggest competitor is outselling them, and they still have to buy chips from these people. That's not going to sit well with Apple, because Apple is not that type of company. So, but Samsung had to deal with them through 2014, so they can't get out of it just yet. So, I mean, with all this litigation and stuff going on, it really opens the door to see why Apple is trying to get out of, or why Apple kind of has such a sore spot with Samsung, and now they're trying to cut ties, because this is just crazy. I didn't know that Apple's chip manufacturer was Samsung, but reportedly they are trying to get out from under Samsung's thumb, and they're going to do that by either making their own chips, or they're going to strike a deal with another chip maker. Now, Apple right now is denying that this deal exists. Apple is denying this deal exists because they're like, man, you know what I'm saying? We're not going to admit that we're looking for another chip manufacturer, probably because they don't want Samsung to really get wind of it or anything yet. So they're saying that this is not. They're denying all reports that this is actually happening. But from what we're getting from the Wall Street Journal, from Geeky Gadgets, from places like that, we're getting that this is actually what's going on. This is actually happening right now, and although it'll be big for the company if the reports are true, Apple could get out from under Samsung's thumb. Only time will tell if this is really true. But beyond being a non-Apple user here, I mean, I use like the iPod and stuff like that, but I'm not a fan of the Apple ecosystem and stuff like that. I'm not really a fan of that. You know what I'm saying? But to know that Samsung is really Apple's chip provider really can't sit well with Apple, knowing that Samsung is outselling Apple in the phone market and stuff like that. Not in the tablet market, but in the phone market, Apple is outselling. And the Nexus 7 is also a very popular Android device, selling more than the iPad mini. So all of these things just doesn't sit well with Apple. So it's going to be interesting to see how these things, how it works out as far as Apple, and are they going to be willing to, because they still have this relationship until 2014. So it's really going to be interesting to see how Apple breaks the cycle with this thing. And according to Arx Techna, rumors about Apple and TSMC partnership, which is the other semiconductor. It's TSMC is a Taiwanese semiconductor company. They make semiconductors, and Apple is said, the TSMC execs say that the company's chips will begin shipping in Apple's devices in 2014. However, Samsung will remain the primary supplier through next year, meaning iPhone, iPad refreshes that come in this fall, the new iPhone, the new iPad that's coming this fall, is still going to have Samsung manufactured chips inside. The TSMC made processors will be manufactured on the company's 20 nanometer process, which will save power compared to both a 32 nanometer Samsung process used in most current Apple i5 and i6 series of chips, and the 28 nanometer processor that TSMC is using for most of the mobile chipset it makes today. Now, rumors about the Apple TSMC partnership have been making the rounds for years. For years, Apple has been rumored because they've been trying to get from under Samsung for a long time, and the report states that the delays are due to unspecified glitches that kept TSMC's chips from attaining the speeds and power consumption that Apple was really looking for and that Apple wanted. So talks were apparently set back when Apple asked TSMC to set aside some of its manufacturing capacity exclusively for Apple chips, something that TSMC wasn't willing to do. And just like with, incidentally, TSMC, they produce chips for companies like AMD, for NVIDIA, and Qualcomm. And you'll know Qualcomm because Qualcomm is in phones. Qualcomm Snapdragon processors are in most mobile phones. NVIDIA chips are in tablets and stuff like that. And of course, AMD, everybody knows that. They're in computers and things like that. And so TSMC would be a good manufacturer for Apple to get together with. But right now, they seem to be stuck with Samsung. So it's going to be interesting to see as time rolls on how Apple is able to, how they're able to break away from Samsung. I guess they really just won't renew the contract. But the thing is, does TSMC, do they have, even though they make NVIDIA and Qualcomm and stuff like that, do they have that unique brand of silicone that Samsung uses for its chipset? Do they have that? And if they have it, are they going to be able to create a similar set of chipsets with the power benchmarks, I guess you could say, that Apple is looking for? Are they going to be able to do that? We have to wait and see, because if not, the Apple products, and you know Apple is a stickler for quality, so they're not going to allow anything to come out that's not top notch, not to their specifications. So it's going to be interesting for us to see if this is something that Apple is really going to be able to do in 2014. But this move to TSMC has been a long time coming, so we just have to wait and see. Now, in other stories, Facebook has implemented new ad policies, and according to Geeky Gadgets, we're talking about Facebook implementing these new ad policies. Facebook, you know, they've been getting into the ad business, not for a while, but recently, since they started to monetize Facebook, and they have a program coming out this summer where they're trying to get $1 million for 4 ad slots this summer. And they say that they'll have no problem selling it. But now they are set to implement new ad policies in Facebook. Now, nobody likes ads, right? But they're a large part of the internet, as we know, and that isn't going to go away anytime soon, because the internet is huge, you know, and they're going to make money off of ads, and a lot of people are going to make money off of ads. So this is something that Facebook is really trying to corner. Now, we're coming up on a break, and right after the break, we're going to continue talking about this new ad system. I mean, matter of fact, what do you think about ads? Is this something that you like in your internet viewing and stuff like that, or you like ad-free? We're going to talk about that coming up right after the break. So just stay tuned right here to Tech Pulse as we talk about Facebook right after the break. Coming up next on Tech Pulse. So I'm actually coming up right next. Yeah.